Jim Zogby, and welcome back to a special edition of Viewpoint. We're coming to you from the Arab American Museum in Dearborn, Michigan. We're talking to an audience of Arab Americans from across the state about the issues and the choices that will confront them in this year's election. We talked in the first segment about the economy principally, but also healthcare and issues of that sort. This segment, we're going to talk about an issue that is of special concern, and that is civil liberties and some of the issues of immigrant rights. I want to go right now to Kary Moss. She's with us today. She's the State Director for the American Civil Liberties Union. She's well known to the community here as somebody who's been in the forefront of leading some of the fights for civil liberties. And I want to start, Kary, asking you about the environment that we're in. It's been difficult since 9/11, and it's getting, some suspect, even worse. Can you talk about where we are right now in this civil liberties discussion?
Sure. Well, the economy, as we've just been talking about, has not helped matters. Kind of coming in the wake of the attacks of September 11th, you know, fear set in immediately, and that's only been, I think, exacerbated by the economic crisis, really, in the country. People are afraid, and when people are afraid, they support policies that are not democratic and that don't promote our democracy. And we've really seen that play out in a very profound way. It has not lessened in recent years. We are now looking at a new terrorist profile that the Department of Justice is issuing that is going to very much affect our state, which borders Canada, and you know, there's a lot of traffic. We're dealing with new amendments to federal law, the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act that just passed this summer, that are going to make it much easier for the government to engage in warrantless spying on all international calls and emails. And also, that law will decrease the ability of the courts to act as a check and balances on government abuse of power. So we're still seeing a lot of initiatives, and those are just a few examples. Our terrorist watch list has now reached 1 million people. So these are just a few examples of some of the problems that are really going to, has affected this community in particular, and will continue, I think, to have very profound impact no matter who's elected in November.
Let me ask you a question this way, though, Kary. I remember my brother polled, as many have polled, on these issues over the years. Ask people to name the 10 Bill of Rights they can't. Ask them to talk about even should people be allowed the right to security and in their own homes, or should the government have the right to search them? And in times of fear, they'll say, oh yes, search them. I mean, people don't have respect for the fundamental constitutional rights that our country provides, and don't even know what they are. Except everybody knows the right to bear arms. That's the one, I guess, that everybody knows about. How do you see, I remember Michael Dukakis got hurt in the 1988 election for being a card-carrying member of the American Civil Liberties Union. Where's the debate today? How is it sophisticated after what we've been through? Do people know what the challenges are? Are they willing to accept the warrantless wiretaps? Are they willing to accept profiling and data mining and all of the other kinds of harassment that can take place? Or is there a body of the body politic, a part of the body politic that says, no, don't go any further? Or are people willing to accept them?
I think it's an important and a complicated question. I mean, fortunately, those days of Michael Dukakis are gone, and in fact, our membership has exploded in the last 4 or 5 years.
The word to use is grown. Sorry.
It's grown, correct. I stand corrected.
Exponentially.
It has grown exponentially, I think, because people were, the public was very, very alarmed. I mean, here in Michigan, it quadrupled, basically, since 9/11. There certainly are polls that say that, you know, many Americans don't know the first thing about the Bill of Rights. We often find, though, in polls that when we ask questions it's a different way. How do you feel about the police coming into your house, without a warrant? All of a sudden, they begin to understand and get what some of the issues are that we're talking about. So a lot of the polling, I think, has to do with how the questions are being asked. But aside from that, I think there are some very important bipartisan issues that affect national security and that affect democracy, where we really can build some opposition to this fear that has taken place and led to these very regressive laws. So for example, around privacy, which you mentioned, We find Republicans and Democrats alike are not happy with a lot of this new cutting-edge technology that allows for data mining and data fusion centers and real ID and a national ID card. I mean, the technology has tremendous capabilities to allow not only the government but private businesses to have just an enormous amount of information about daily private activities of the average citizen. And I think that as the government succeeds in deploying these databases, and particularly giving law enforcement officials more power, you are going to start to see more resistance and backlash against some of these initiatives.
Let me ask a question here. How many of you have experienced some form of either harassment or special surveillance as you've gone to airports or across the borders, et cetera? Raise your hands if you have. Okay, it's an issue. We have two attorneys with us, both of whom have dealt with a number of these kinds of cases, and I want to, if I could go first, can you bring the microphone over here for Noel Saleh, who worked here at Access as an attorney, worked with the American Civil Liberties Union, and is now working within the community on several of these issues. Noel, tell us about some of what you're seeing play out here.
Well, first I want to go back a little bit to your first question, because I want to reinforce what Kary had to say, and that is that when people respond to polls, they're responding in an abstract. And when you talk to people and tell them how these new laws and regulations are affecting their lives directly, then they really become aware of it. And it's because they don't think it can happen to them that they're willing to allow the government to do these things. But when they understand that these are going to have a very real impact on their life, then people really become very distressed and are very animated. And I've been in discussions with organizations throughout the state and representatives from the broad spectrum of American society, Republican, Democrat, Independents, and I think it's universally true that there is a growing concern about the overreaching on the part of the government. Now, how does it affect? I mean, right now we're involved in litigation. You're talking about who's experienced difficulties in the airport. Right now we're involved in litigation representing what was hoped to be a class action against the Transportation Security Administration about their terrorist watch list and how they are bringing American citizens and stopping them as they're getting off of international flights. Not when they get to the passport check-in and say, oh, we want to talk to you. Literally, they're calling their name as they're getting off the airplane and saying, come with us. And then they're detained for 2 to 3 to 4 hours, asking questions, intrusive searches into their luggage, into their computers. And they're doing this, and then on a consistent basis. Every time these persons enter the United States, they get this experience, and every time then they're said, you can go now. So this is a very serious issue amongst the Arab American community and the Muslim American community. People are aware of these incidents. So while the lawsuit may have 18 plaintiffs in it, you know, it's a message that's resonating throughout the community because they know that they could be next.
Let me hear from Bill Swar, who's here with us today, and another attorney here in this area. And what are you seeing, Bill?